see it in the eyes. I can see it in the eyes.
You can, I really do.
I agree. It's not as much.
Yeah, I got a lot of that. Oh, geez.
Okay. Is it testing? Yeah, there.
Nope. You're just teasing now.
I'm looking at the clock on
Now? Now?
there.
Good morning. I would like to call the meeting to order. Um, And welcome all of you who are participating in this Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors meeting today, July the 2nd, 2020. Today's meeting marks a return to the in-person public meeting since March of this year, when meetings were conducted virtually, in some cases in pajamas, by necessity for 3 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is being broadcast live from the Legislative Chamber at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center located at 1819 Farnham Street. For those of you who are present in the chamber today, please continue to abide by health officials' recommended guidelines for wearing face masks and maintaining social distance of 6 feet from one another. And you all are doing a great job this morning. Thank you. Safety briefing. I'd like to first invite our Vice President of Safety, Security, and Business Continuing, Shane Hunter, to provide a briefing regarding protocol for all individuals in attendance at the board meeting today in the event of an emergency. Good morning.
Good morning. Shane Hunter, Vice President of Safety and Security. We are in the Legislative Chamber at 1819 Farnham Street. And although we came in through the normal path off of the elevator this morning, there are certain security protocols, so there will be some change to the safety briefing. There are additional exits from this building. Over here behind this accordion wall where you'll find a fire extinguisher as well as the AED, and we have one over here as well. There's also another fire extinguisher. With the location of the AED in mind, can I have a show of hands of who's CPR trained in the room? Thank you. In case of a medical emergency, our security manager, Zach Valentine, will contact 911 and await their arrival to direct them here from the security kiosk. We are on the second floor. In this building, it's known as the LC level. So if there's an emergency, severe weather, we need to go down 2 floors, we'll use either one of these exits. We would prefer that everyone use the same exit for personnel accountability of district employees and board members. If we need to exit the building because of a reason for evacuation, again, we'll use this stairwell, 1 flight of stairs down outside, and we'll meet by the flagpole. That concludes the safety briefing.
Thank you. Mary, roll call, please.
Friend?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
McGowan?
Here.
Howard?
Here.
Kavanaugh?
Here.
Bagley?
Here.
Cook?
Here.
I would like to advise all of those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall of the Legislative Chamber. Construction and operations. Mr. Astamore, are you present? And can you give us a review of the proposed capital expenditures for the headquarters building renovation?
Of course. Good morning. This request for a capital expenditure is the remaining capital to finish the headquarters project. Before I go further, I'd like to introduce a video that we've shared with the employee population that kind of details the progress thus far. If you could start that.
Welcome to 7350 World Communications Drive, the district's future headquarters. I am Melissa Polito, project manager of the renovations of this facility. We are in full force with construction, and I'm excited to show you the progress. Let's go take a look inside. We're just inside the main lobby. Off to my right over here is framing being done for the executive offices, along with some conference rooms. We have the elevators, the main staircase, and then the future boardroom. We're looking down the main hallway of first floor, and off to the left we'll house the future credit union. And behind me they are busy framing for HR and the law department. Okay, so we're coming up on third floor. We just came off the elevator here. Third floor will house engineering, marketing, accounting, and communications. Second floor will be a mirrored image of what you'll see here on third floor when we walk around. So other than that, we'll house IT and the call center. So you'll see very similar layout what we'll see on third floor. Third floor is just a little bit further along in the process. We are going to start painting here later this week as far as putting actual color on the walls. And hopefully we'll have a ceiling tile here in the next few weeks as far as after we get our inspections completed. So this is the south side of the building. This will be where a lot of the workstations will be placed as far as part of engineering, and accounting will be on the south side. What we're in here now will be the future print room. where we'll house all of our large printers that similar to what's in engineering currently. Second floor will be a workroom. We'll just have smaller printers and some storage areas for folks to use. As we leave the print room here, we'll come around the corner. This area will be a future lounge area for employees to use. It will have cabinet space with some microwaves and refrigerators, a little break area. We'll have some tables and chairs in this open space. And then that area that you see over there will be a future conference room with the glass storefront. What we're looking at now is the north side of the building on third floor. You look out the windows, you can see the interstate over there. This again will be a wide open space for workstations. And on the perimeter of the building on both ends will be offices and conference rooms. Over on the far wall there is the collab area that you've recently seen in the last few weeks of the renderings that we've sent out, which will have TVs and tables for employees to use. I hope you enjoyed a look behind the scenes of the district's new headquarters building. I'm really excited about the future here and look for more updates throughout the summer.
Steve, can I just say that looks so exciting? The employees, are they excited to see that video and think that's going to be our future home?
Well, I hope so. I certainly hope so. I'd like to say
I think it looks pretty awesome.
it's going to be, yeah. And a special thank you to Melissa Polito and Steph Mueller's group for putting that video together. And I would like to recognize the efforts of Melissa Polito and John Zellers for taking on this project and managing it professionally and very efficiently from where we started. Now back to the CNA. This is the $3.154 million that I had estimated with a rough order of magnitude in February when I met with the board on what it was going to take to complete the building to an acceptable level. This number reflects the reduced sum from what I inherited, and there is no expectation that I'll be before this board again asking for any more capital. That being said, there's a little better than a 4% contingency built into this sum, which in the event that we don't use that money, which we won't if we don't have to, it will just return back to where it was originally encumbered within the 2020 budget. This money does not impact the ratepayer. This money has already been identified in the 2020 existing budget, and what I would like to do right now is introduce the VP of Accounting, Mr. Mark Myers, to give you a brief yet concise overview of the funding of this project to this point, if that's all right.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Mark Myers, Vice President of Accounting, and I just have a few slides to share to provide a financial update on the headquarters project. This first slide here is a snapshot as of May 31st. And in the chart on the left, you can see the total estimated cost of the project is currently $14.3 million. And that's our best estimate based on contracts that have been signed and bids that have been received. I should point out this number does not include the purchase price of the building, which was an additional $8.3 million. And so that's our estimate. The approved spending on the project is the second bar down. So you can see prior to today's request, we have $11.8 million approved to spend on the project. There was $3.9 million approved in February of 2019 and $8.1 million earlier this year. The third bar there shows the total amount spent to date through May. We have spent $3.6 million, which represents about 25% of the total estimated cost, as you can see in the table on the right. This next slide shows a little more detail of the components that make up that $14.3 million estimate. The project was broken into two phases. The first phase is complete and totaled $2.1 million. And that was essentially to get the building ready for the people downtown to move in, which occurred late last year, as well as some additional maintenance items that were identified at that time. The second phase is ongoing now, as we just saw in the video, and the total is about $12.2 million. The The largest items there are the construction contract with MCL of 5.7, purchase and installation of furniture of 2.1, and audio and visual and data equipment of about 1.4 million. And then this next slide shows a comparison of that estimated cost to the total authorized spending coming down to the additional amount that's being requested today. You can see the top row there is the $14.3 million cost estimate that was outlined on the previous page. The $595,000 additional project contingency is the amount that Steve referenced. It's roughly 4% of the total project cost. And in addition, in 2019, we spent about $187,000 for some improvements at the operations center, largely the lunchroom improvements that were made there. That brings us to the total of $15.1 million total estimated cost. You can see the total of the two CNAs that were approved previously, bringing us down to the $3,154,000 that we're requesting today. Are there any questions? Thank you.
One for Steve. At the beginning of this project, we talked about having some extra space, and I apologize if you've already answered this before, but is there going to be any extra space left over when we're 100% completed?
I think that's all going to depend on how we staff the entire district based on what we've learned through the pandemic. The space that we have allocated, the furniture and the space for all of our 330 employees is likely not going to be as critical as it was when this began planning, because we've proven that we can work from home at some level. You know, and what we haven't proven is the sustainability of such a strategy. So that being said, that would be about the only extra space. Other than that, all the space is accounted for, the 90,000 square feet. That being said, there are areas that originally were going to be renovated that aren't, including the kitchen and some backroom areas. So short answer is, as it's designed now, no.
Okay, thank you.
I recall that at one point you'd run into some unexpected issues under the front entryway. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there was settling in the entryway, and then as we began, I think since we've last met, we've moved all the employees out to give contractors full access, and that expedited the process. It's going to result in a cost savings and greatly improved schedule impact to the district. So when they started on the boardroom, they also found the same problem there. There was settling in the boardroom, settling in the main lobby. Since then, they've torn up the floor. I will, again, recognize Melissa for heading this project. And they fixed the problem. They added compact fill in there, and they re-poured the floors just this week. And now it has not impacted the schedule.
So it didn't turn out to be a sewer issue like was initially suspected?
Well, interestingly enough, while they had the floor up, they took, and it was just dirt, they took advantage of adding conduit and repairing everything that was under there too. So that was an added benefit, but it won't impact the budget at all, and it is fixed.
Thank you.
So the repair cost is part of the budget already included?
Everything's included in this number.
Even to repair the foundation and all that?
Everything,
Everything.
Yeah. And I'll come forward, I think after this, with a change order, which is also included in this, and I'll explain that.
And is the furniture ordered?
Yes.
When is that supposed to, what's the lead time for that? I know it has to be quite a bit.
Well, there's some, as far as specifically what day, John, can I ask you? Vice President John Zellers is in charge of the furniture. I don't know the exact dates when they're going to get.
Good morning. John Zellers, Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services. Yeah, the furniture has recently been ordered. The lead time is up to 12 weeks. We actually anticipate that the installation will occur starting in late September to early October on second and third floor. I apologize, but man, this is hard to talk through. And we, per the schedule, we are to have occupancy on October 26th for second and third floor, and then occupancy for the whole building by the end of the year.
So we won't have to store anything, that comes in too soon?
No.
Be delivered when it's ready to be
Correct.
installed?
Yeah, that's all on the vendor for the furniture. So if they receive it, that's all going to be coordinated with MCL, and All Makes is the furniture vendor, and that's all coordinated through the schedule with those two entities.
Good, thanks.
And Steve or Mark, I'm sorry, get my mask off. If I do my arithmetic and if I recall right, 15.1 million be the total project. It does not include costs of the building. But if I recall right, we bought the building for about 8 million. We sold our old building for about 6 million. So there's a $2 million deficit. So if I look at that and add that, the total cost of the project, including buying and selling our buildings, be about 17 million and change, 17 point something.
Yeah, between 17 and 18 million all in,
Right.
yes.
And this is something I need to ask you or Mark Doyle or somebody. I also recall a lot of discussions of the old building, the cost to repair the garage, the cost to repair the parking, and make the building ADA accessible was about $18 million. Now that would be over a period of time, but the total cost is $18 million. So if I look at this, we got a brand new building, a lot of space, a lot of parking for our employees and everything, for something that's less over time than what we're faced with. Is that right?
Yeah, that's accurate. And the cost for rehabilitating the downtown building was 18 to 24 million from my records. But what we did is we did a long-term assessment, what it would cost over the next 50 years to own a series of different buildings that were on the market at that time. And the building that we purchased, and which drove part of the decision to purchase that building, it was much more financially favorable to the district to go ahead and change buildings because of the amount of work that was needed downtown.
And I also recall that to do that work over at the old building, to make it accessible and everything, we'd had to move a lot of employees out of the building to let the work be done. Then we have to lease some space or find some space for those employees to work from. And that cost isn't included either, is it?
No, that's that 18 to 24 range. It depends on if we raise the garage, which was very likely, what we were going to do with the building, what we were going to find, which was going to be bad because there hasn't been much done with that building in decades. And also the social cost of displacing 136 employees for likely 2 years or better, and coming back, and the max occupancy we were going to get with a remodel, I don't have that number, but it was just a little over 200, right? Where we got 300, we have everybody in the new building that is, except for the operations folks. And part of the objective was to get everybody in the same home and have that environment where we're all inclusive and together, right? We weren't going to get that with the downtown building unless we raised it and built a new one.
Right.
And that was contemplated as well, raising that and building a new one, or building a new one elsewhere. And there was some roadblocks to that, and primarily there wasn't any property. The only property available is the property that we sit on, and then potentially in North Downtown there was a spot there that may have been available. Other than that, there were no options.
And I heard Melissa in the video, she pointed out that here's where HR and law is going to be. So
Yes.
HR is moving from the operations center out there.
Yes and no. HR will maintain a presence at the ops center because we're still going to have hundreds of employees working out of the operations center.
But there will be some at the new building too?
Absolutely, yes.
And will the law department be in the new building?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I look at that and I see, here we got a brand new building that I assume with all the modifications and everything we've done already, that we don't see a large maintenance facing us in the future.
We designed this renovation with a 50-year plan. And that's how we looked at it. And that's one of the reasons we tore out the floor entirely and took advantage of all that. Is we could, instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, we fixed it right. And to the tune of 60 to 80 million all in to fix that floor. I'm sorry, 1,000? Yeah, like 60 or 80,000 to do it right. Now it's done forever.
So I can rationalize, talk to my ratepayers and everybody that, look, okay, we spent $15 million, but we're saving a heck of a lot, and we got a brand new building. Our employees, we got them consolidated, we got training rooms, we got all this. We're positioned to be very functional and operational out that new building.
Yeah, that's very true. Also, this perennial parking issue we had down there, and it created an environment of have and have-nots, waiting lists for employees to park, and it was just kind of an unkind environment just for parking alone. And the parking garage was overdue for some significant repairs.
How many covered parking stalls do we have in the new building?
Well, there's I think 420, but half of that is covered, and then the upper deck is uncovered.
So most of our employees will have covered, some
Yes.
will not.
Right, that's right.
I tell you what, I think you guys have done a great job. That video was so exciting to see a new modern building compared to what we had and our employees where they were working cramped in and everything. It's got to be a very positive impact on the employee morale, and just to see that and be able to work in an environment like that, I think it's exciting. And I'm proud of you guys for doing this and want to thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Steve, just a couple questions. To counter what Mike said, first, I want to commend you and the team for picking up where you inherited the project, and you and the team did a very good job of reining in expenses. But two things I want to remind the board are, one, when we reviewed the buildings that were brought forth to us, we were told that this building was move-in ready. We heard that numerous times, that the building was only 20 plus years old. It had been on the market for quite some time. And had we known then what we know now, that we purchased a building for $8.3 million, and we're going to have to renovate for nearly twice the amount that we purchased the building, I think that might have caused us some pause with supporting the purchase of that new building. So one question I have for you, Steve, is there was an issue of the building being heated with electric.
Yes.
With this $14.3 million that we've used to renovate the building, has the building been converted to heat with natural gas?
No. No, so that decision came to me, and to convert it to natural gas was, I'm going back, I don't have those figures in front of me, about $1 million. The systems that were up there are in good shape. So what we did is we designed and brought in the gas supply to serve gas heat when this system wears out, instead of taking out a functioning system and replacing it for the simple reason to switch from electric to gas.
Could you repeat what you said there about when needed, using the gas? I missed.
Okay, so it remains electric, and then we brought in, we loaded the gas size for it. So the gas service is there at the ready, not being used. When this system becomes obsolete, it will be replaced with gas.
I see. Okay.
Versus taking out a perfectly functioning system, spending $1 million to convert it to gas. That's what the decision was made.
Thank you.
Well, one thing that I'll agree with Mike on, that it looks like after the renovations are completed, it'll be a great work site for our employees. And I'm glad we only do this once every 100 years.
Right.
None of us will be. Jack will. In spirit.
Any other questions?
But hindsight's perfect, and I agree with Jim. I remember saying it was, move-in ready and everything. We all jumped on this building, but I don't know. I feel like any building we would have gone to, any other choice, would have had renovations. I don't know how much they would have been or whatever, but here we are right now, and we've made several decisions, and we just got to go forward. I think it's a great project. I think, for the money, our ratepayers are getting a good building that we all can be proud of and our employees can be proud of. So, again, thank you for your hard work. I agree with Jim. You inherited a project that you needed to make it survive, and you did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing I want to add, and this follows up with something Mike said also. It was also my understanding that the board had been informed that, and we can't go back and change things, but we did have the opportunity for a zero-cost lease for a building in the downtown area, which would not have incurred any further costs on the district, but that's well behind us, and like Mike said, we're moving on.
The building right to the west?
Correct.
Yeah, that's how I remember it. Yep.
Thanks, Steve.
You bet. Any other questions?
Thank you for the commentary. I would like to make one little correction. We didn't all jump on the issue of the building.
Sure. Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, Mr. Zellers, would you like to review the materials and contracts? You're next up. And we're doing something different?
There's a change order on the agenda.
All right. I'm sure Mr. Ostermeyer can clear this up.
Tab 6. Now this is a change order for the audiovisual and data contract to complete the new building. This change order for just under 1.4 million is within that total amount. And the reason for the change order is one promise I made to you all in February is we were going to follow MUD procedures from here on out. And that's what brings this. The rough order of magnitude on this project was $1.4 million to design and implement. It took us quite a while through the process to get this right and get it below that mark. This is what that represents. This is the last contract that I'll bring to you. It may not be the last change order I bring to you, but this is the last contract. This finishes the project. So this amount, not to confuse the issue, is within that amount.
And let me ask you, why you bring a change order to us when we approve the total project and say, okay, here's your approval, go do it. And this is included in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could have change orders on different things in construction. Why bring that all to us when we've approved it and you stay within that budget? Why do we have to go through a change order?
Because I promised you in February that I didn't know what this was going to cost. And to the extent this didn't exist in February when I took over the project. So we had to design it, go out to bid, and then interface that contractor with our general contractor, which is a change from what I promised you. When I told you I thought $1.4 million, that was our best guess, scrambling for 30 days trying to get this project back on track. And that's why.
Okay, so anytime you have other change orders or changes in a construction estimate, that's a little different than this one.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, I have that contingency on there, and to the extent, if we were going to go over that, I need board approval.
Yes.
If we're within that amount, I'll include you all in my monthly updates.
So
but I won't
each
see.
month in the board meetings, you'll give us an update?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
And I want to tell you and Melissa and your whole team, great job on doing this.
Thanks.
I mentioned before, and I'll probably mention it every meeting for a while, I want to give great deference to local contractors, subs, and so forth whenever possible. If the price is close, we should go with local. I see we have 5 AV subs and 4 data subcontractors. Do we know whether those are local bidders, or are they coming from outside? You may not have that with you today.
I don't have that in front of me.
But I would stress we use local people whenever possible. That's
Understood.
my big concern right now.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. You make such a good point, and that's always good to be reminded of that. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. And I agree with Tim. That's something we always should do.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeBoer. Didn't mean to skip over you.
No, you did great. So good morning. My name's Dave DeBoer. I'm the Chief Operations Officer, and we'll be overviewing the capital expenditures letter and the finals letter. So tab 7 is where the capital expenditures letter is located. We've got 3 projects this month, all underneath systems improvements. The first project is a ratification, and that's for $138,000 located at the Creighton campus to relocate 300 feet of 12-inch 12-inch ductile iron water main, as well as 70 feet of 45-pound gas main. The project is reimbursable. It's Clearway Energy. It's the old Energy Systems. They've got a steam line and a chilled water line that has conflicts, so they're relocating our gas and water, and the ratification is necessary so that we can get ahead of this before the fall campus schedule begins. So we've already started to work on that project. And then the second project I'll overview is for $285,000. It's located on Highway 50. near Cornhusker Road. The project also relocates 350 feet of 12-inch ductile iron 12-inch water main and 660 feet of gas main. We're going to be relocating a gas reg station, which is underground. We're going to bring that back above ground. This project is developer driven, and so it is also reimbursable. Any questions on the capital expenditures letter? All right, moving into tab 8. This is acceptance of contracts and payments of final estimates. We've got 4 projects. Work continues to go on in the city. We've got almost $1 million of 4 contracts here. 1 is with Cedar and 3 are with Kirsten. We've got a few small change orders with these, but they're mostly related to the V-Bio wrap and some of the shoring criteria that we put on the customers or on the contractors. And so really no significant items there. The actual costs were all within the, or representative of the engineer's estimate. So really good finals letter too. Any questions on acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates?
Steve, Dave, before you sit down, it doesn't have anything to do with these projects, but I do want to ask you, the pump station, water pump station at 156th and Dodge.
Yep.
I know the design. How's the design going? We're in the design phase.
We are.
Is it planned to be put in 2021? What's the status of that?
Yeah, I don't know the exact status, but I know it's in design right now. And I know the construction's a good year to 18 months ahead before we can get the item installed. But what I can do, Director McGowan, is give you an update of the design schedule and the construction schedule so you can kind of see where that fits within the schedule.
And I was just wondering, you said 18 to 24 months for construction. Are we looking at having it operational in 2021, 2022?
Boy, I'll maybe lean on Corey if he knows offhand. But yeah,
It will not be?
2022 would probably be a closer date.
That's all I need.
Yeah, it's out there quite a ways.
Okay.
We need to wrap up the design, we'll go out to
Yep.
bids. There's quite a bit of work.
And our water
associated with it.
pressures are good till 2022?
Yeah, zone 3 can use an assist a little bit. We know that'll help, but it's just during that early morning run when all the irrigation systems are on. But we'll certainly be fine through this summer.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't shower till 11.
we encourage that.
Hey, Dave, just a quick question. We were provided information last week about the modifications that have been made to the capital expenditures for 2020, given what we've experienced with the COVID virus. Can you just give us an overview of the process that was undertaken, not getting into specifics about what's being delayed till after this year, but just what went into the thought process and what that process entailed?
Absolutely. So, great question. We started looking at accounts receivable, and when I say we, primarily Joe Schaffert and his team provided us with senior staff with accounts receivable. And we knew across the industry that the cash flow wasn't coming in as anticipated. So as a team, what we did is we went within both gas operations and water operations and construction and identified those projects that weren't necessarily critical to this year. And to the extent that we felt we could defer them into 2021 or 2022, we thought that'd be the best course of action. So we identified many projects by working through the VPs and the directors of each of those areas of projects that we felt could be deferred.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that.
As a follow-up to that, Steve, this is more of a request to Mark and Joe. Joe sent out a nice letter, probably been 3 or 4 weeks ago, about the status of our financials with this COVID stuff. Could I ask that we place an agenda item for August meeting for Joe to get up and give us a report on how we've come through the COVID financially, accounts receivable, how many people owe us money, and the whole update on what he gave us before. But let's have it at an agenda item. Could we get that?
Yeah, we'll talk to Mark and work that through.
I don't know, Gwen, is that okay? Would you like?
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. And now the most anticipated Mr. Zellers. Please come down and give us a review of bids and materials.
can't say it's the most anticipated, but I'll take it. Good morning, John Zellers, Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services. Bids on materials and contracts may be found under tab 9. There are a few items I'd like to highlight this morning, and the first two are at the top of page 2, in which we are asking for the ratification of the audio-visual and data cabling for the new headquarters. Competitive bids were received through our general contractor, MCL. In addition to our district team, the bids were evaluated by our consultants, HBA and Morrissey Engineering, for conformance to the plans and specifications. The low bid for both projects was recommended and is included in the change order discussed by Mr. Osdemore. The next item is also on page 2. We received 6 bids for a 3-year contract to provide security guard services at various district locations. This is a 2-step process in which we pre-qualify security contractors through a public solicitation to assure they have the capability and resources to supply the services that we're requesting. During this step, we also require a confidentiality statement be signed by each prospective contractors. Contractors are then vetted through our security team, and those that meet the qualifications are asked to submit bids. The contract is structured whereas the district defines the wages and hours worked per week per guard post. In addition, the district requires that the successful contractor hire the current guards. The contract bid is based off of a markup for each post and wage category. Signal 88 Security provided the lowest bid and meets its criteria set forth in the contract, and their bid is recommended for approval. Lastly, I'd like to make note of page 3, in which we are asking for approval of several extensions. As has been discussed with the board in the past, the review of annual contract to determine if it is in the district's best interest to extend an annual contract or rebid is conducted. We make this decision by looking at 3 criteria. First and foremost is a review of market indexes, such as the Producer's Price Index, through the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, which provides indexes on goods and services that measures the average change of selling prices over time. We also take into consideration specification changes and any known new vendors in the market. In the case of the annuals that are shown on page 3, we believe it is in the best interest of the district to extend the contracts as shown. All the vendors have agreed to hold their current pricing. And that's all I have for you this morning. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
John,
go ahead, sorry.
Thank you. I've got a quick question for you. I just want to make sure I understand this. On page 2, data cabling, that's just the cost of pulling or placing the data cable?
Correct.
Or is there more involved in that?
Yeah, there's actually some demo work that was associated with that as well.
I was just surprised at the variance in bids. I don't think we've seen anything else where the low bid and the high bid are almost double the difference. I mean, I'm glad you chose the low bid, but that was a huge variance. I just wondered if there was more to it than.
And actually, we were quite pleased by that submittal by Voice and Data Systems. Originally, MCL had only reached out to 4 different contractors, 3 of which did not provide a bid, and Commonwealth was the only one that provided a bid. We asked MCL to take another look, and working with Morrissey, we found that some of the contractors that they originally targeted did not do this type of work. So obviously, we only got 1 bid through Commonwealth. So by being diligent and requesting that they take another look at it, we were able to actually reduce the cost by almost $100,000 by going with the low bid.
I saw that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that material and labor?
Yes. Yes.
John, under the first bid, Becker Trenching, is that a new bidder? I don't recall seeing that name before.
Becker, actually, they do quite a bit of work for us on the plumbing side associated with claims, and they are certified to do water mains. They actually reached out to us and said that they're interested in even though they haven't bid in the past or actually in recent memory, they are interested in participating, which is good. We need new bidders.
Absolutely.
And so I was happy to see that they were successful, and we'll see how they perform.
Great, thank you.
John, I'd like to ask, and I don't mean to cause extra work, but if there is a way for bidders, if you could put an asterisk or something by each one if it's a local bidder,
I can
if they have a
definitely do
local
that.
presence in Omaha, to give us a better idea. And I'm not suggesting we automatically reject, outside bidders, but we just would kind of like to see how competitive it is locally for these companies. And if the prices are very close, if their bids are very close, I would default to the local company. So if we could do that without a whole lot of extra work on
Yeah,
their part.
that is no problem at all. And actually, to answer your question of earlier, the data and the AV all have local presence in Omaha.
Good.
And most of the bidders that, or vendors that are brought to you do have a local presence. Some of them, with the exception of maybe the annuals, especially when you start getting into some special, like water treatment, chemicals and so forth.
Sure.
Those are either railed in. Lime, for example, can come out of Wyoming, it can come out Arkansas, Missouri. There is no local presence for that, but I can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
John, just on the top of page 2, the first project, CCS presentation, is that a local company?
Yes, yep. Every single one of the AVs have a local presence.
Okay. How about the second one, AVI SPL?
AVI SPL is new to Omaha. They came in, I can't remember which project it was. I believe it was UNMC. I believe they were awarded a bid through UNMC, and that brought them to Omaha. I believe they only have maybe a couple years here, but they actually do have an office down in, I believe it's Papillion.
And this is a question more for Tim Cavanaugh, because I agree with you to support local. If CCS presentation for 718 was not local and AVI was local for 727,000, a difference of 9,000, would that be something we should support a local?
I think we'd discuss it because at a certain point, we have to go with the lower bidder if it's a material difference.
Yeah, see, but like that
That's
was only
close. I don't know.
9,000, not even
I know.
1%.
I know, that's a tougher one.
Yeah, but that'd be something we'd like to discuss, I guess, because
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you that, if we can go local, even if we have to pay a little bit extra, sometimes we might,
Yeah.
right?
The benefit is there, and plus, we're dealing with our customers that are bidding on these
Exactly.
projects. Why not give them
Yeah.
deference?
So if you have a conflict like that, something's real close, bring it to us. We'd like to
Definitely.
discuss it.
We definitely will. And then just to that point, I had mentioned this a few months ago, hand sanitizer, for example, we started buying that in bulk. We originally had bought it through one of our water treatment chemical suppliers, and but then was able to secure it through a local brewery in La Vista, and the pricing was and it was exactly the same. So we made that change with the purchases going forward.
That's great.
John, that reminds me, the question I've asked each of the last 3 months, how are we on PPE and for our staff?
We are watching it diligently. We watch it every day. We update the spreadsheets. We have spreadsheets, we keep track of it. But the short answer is we're looking good. And we have contingency plans. We have vendors that are holding supplies for us. And right now we're looking good.
Do you anticipate that changing given that half of the country is reaching new heights in the number of cases in recent days?
I don't. I believe that we're looking good. As part of our plan is we're looking forward into the fall and winter in case there is a second wave. I guess some can argue there already is a second wave. But locally and in Nebraska, the numbers I believe are actually going down. We're on a call every single day with leadership, and we discuss those items, and we actually discuss logistics, the PPE, and the sanitation supplies that we have as well.
Very true, but Texas and Florida were on the decline also, so we just need to continue to be vigilant.
I mean, it's I can't foresee the future. None of us can foresee the future, but we're doing the best that we can to make sure that we have those supplies readily available. Some of them are actually becoming a little bit easier to get. Masks, we get solicitations for masks all the time. We still have probably about 10,000 masks in stock. We still have another 10,000 sitting with a vendor. Our hand sanitizer, we still have about 110 gallons, plus I'm going to say maybe about a fourth of a third drum is left. We recently went and secured small little 4-ounce bottles with spray tops, where we are now filling those, and those are available to all employees now.
Thanks for being all over this. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, thank you.
Good job, thank you. Services and extensions. Mr. O'Brien, please review the main extensions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Corey O'Brien, Vice President, Engineering and Construction. Behind tab 10, you'll find our main extensions letter this month. It's a short letter with just one water project on it. The impact of that project being, 18 single residence lots. And if you look down at your map, you'll see that this main extension is located in subdivision 6. If you turn to page 2, you'll see that this main extension is to provide domestic water service and fire protection to these 18 single residence lots in the Estates at Loveland subdivision located at 87th and Pacific. This is a relatively small project. It consists of about 910 feet of mostly 6-inch pipe and a little 8-inch pipe. This is being installed at the cost of the developer, and they are hoping to have the water by September of this year. I would also add that the developer has requested MUD gas for this project. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Personnel, and today, representing Ms. Savine, we're going to have Mr. Mendenhall.
Yes, thank
Please,
you, Director Howard. My name is Mark.
Welcome. Please review the wage and salary increases and ratifications.
I will. Thank you. Good morning. Mark Mendenhall, Senior Vice President, General Counsel, appearing on behalf of Bonnie Savine, Vice President of Human Resources, who is unable to attend this morning. Before I begin the discussion on tab 11, I'd like to recap employee counts. At the end of June 2019, there were 796 regular full-time employees and 6 regular part-time employees for a total of 802 employees. This year, June of 2020, there are 814 regular full-time employees, 3 regular part-time employees for a total of 817 employees. There are also 2 temporary employees and 12 summer workers, also at the end of June of 2020. Moving on to tab 11, you will find the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications letter. Human Resources is recommending the Board of Directors approve wage or salary increases for 2 employees this month. There's 1 OAC employee being promoted through the posting process and 1 employee being promoted into a posted SPA job. Under Section 5 of the letter is a recommendation to ratify the salary of a new SPA hire. This employee was hired into the engineering department, and the salary is within the improved salary grade for that position. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Outstanding job. Thank you.
I do my best. Thanks.
Mr. Kubat, please provide the reporting regarding the CARES Act and your excellent achievement with the county board.
Rick Kubat, Government Affairs. I believe on tab 15 is a memo related to the CARES Act. Congress allocated $150 billion in dollars under the Corona Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, otherwise known as CARES. Of that, the state of Nebraska received $1.25 billion, and those funds went to 2 places. Douglas County received $166 million because they met a population threshold of 500,000 residents, and the state received just north of $1 billion, or $1.084 billion. It's an interesting dynamic between the state and the county in the various ways that they plan on allocating funds. Both entities have been engaged with Deloitte and Touche to administer funds. Douglas County has set aside roughly $10 million for rental and homeless assistance, and the state of Nebraska has set aside $100 million to the various political subdivisions throughout the state. There's really 2 avenues of which the district can seek CARES Act reimbursement. Avenue 1 is we can go in and request some funding for our own COVID-related expenditures. That would be our purchases of personal protective equipment, self-isolation, overtime cost and items that are directly related to COVID. So MUD in its own accord can move forward. Additionally to that, we kind of found a different angle. We are not allowed to go in and ask for reimbursement for lost revenues. That being said, there's recent federal guidance that a nonprofit on behalf of our ratepayers and customers can help them with utility assistance if their inability to pay their utilities has a direct correlation to a COVID-related experience. To that end, with a lot of support from various folks at MUD, and I hope I don't forget anybody, including Megan Murray, Stephanie Mueller, Sue, and Joe and his finance team, we put together some information in conjunction with the Omaha Public Power District. We appeared in front of the Douglas County Board on Tuesday and requested $4 million collectively for MUD and OPPD to be allocated to Dollar Energy Fund to assist our customers that are struggling paying their utility bill. The time frame for all of the above, everything that I've talked to you, is March through December 30th of this calendar year. But at this point in time, Douglas County has set aside $4 million. We're working with Dollar Energy Fund, and right now, in an attempt to expedite the process to get a web-based portal and platform up that the public can go to request assistance. In addition to that, Dollar Energy Fund is partnered with, I believe it's over 20 local nonprofits here in Omaha. So you can go to your local nonprofit. They'll help walk you through getting a Dollar Energy Fund application in place. And I believe Dollar Energy Fund plans on having its own web portal so you can go directly to them. I think I've covered everything. There's a lot of moving parts, and we're trying to move the process along as fast as possible, but that's where things stand now.
Rick, I had the pleasure of watching your presentation, and it was absolutely outstanding. I told Mark about this yesterday. Not only did you secure funding from the county board, which has a hard time agreeing on a lot of things these days, to put it mildly, you were also able, for them to do that expeditiously, they had to declare an emergency to do it. And it was 7-0 on both emergency and providing the funds. So I rarely see that in this room, and that was just outstanding job by your team of presenters. Thanks.
Thank you for those thoughts.
I really appreciate that you got in there expeditiously and went to bat and got those funds to help people that are really struggling. I'm wondering if it'd be possible to include some information on our little insert that we put. Now, this really is not a question for you, possibly more for Stephanie. The insert we put in with the bills directing people to these sources to get assistance. I want to make it as, I want the information out there as much as possible for people to access it. Everybody's so busy, you kind of need it in front of your face to know what number to call. So anything we can do along those lines would be really good.
And Stephanie Mueller and Megan and many others, we've had those conversations, and that's a great point, Director Howard, what we're going to do to make sure that we get the word out, and we'll be following through with that. The one thing that I do, now that I knew there's one thing that I was forgetting, one of our strongest selling points in advocating for these funds was telling the county board that both MUD and OPPD have agreed to pay the administrative cost. And so that's a non-budgeted item, and is going to make Mr. Schaffert's world more difficult, but at some point in time you're probably going to see a non-budgeted item for those administrative costs in front of you.
Do you have an estimate what they would be?
I do. Early on, right now at $2 million, we're estimating, and it's a decent number, at approximately $275,000, That being said, we are working right now and having conversations with Dollar Energy Fund about what we can do to reduce the rate. In addition to that, as I understand it, if folks go directly to Dollar Energy Fund, there's really two aspects to administrative fees. There's a $12 application fee, and then there's a percentage associated with paying Dollar Energy Fund to administer it. We're talking to Dollar Energy Fund about the percentage rate. In addition to that, if we can move people to apply directly online to Dollar Energy Fund, we would save on the $12 application fee.
Rick, what happened to the money that was in the heat aid fund? Did that get moved over to this fund? And if it has already, or has not already, can we use any of it for the expenses that we're going to incur?
Great question. The home fund remains as is. I would say at this point in time, they're really two different pools of funds in the sense that this pool of funds, under federal guidance, you need to make a showing that there's a COVID-related experience. The home fund, and Stephanie can correct me if I'm incorrect, the home fund is more geared towards where you qualify based on federal poverty guidelines. That being said, they're close cousins, I would say. And as we work through both processes, at times we'll be accessing one fund or the other, and so there's some overlap there.
Okay.
And if I understand it correctly, the CARES Fund money is for Douglas County residents.
That is correct.
It's restricted, which they can easily determine where someone lives before they...
Yes, and Dollar Energy Fund has indicated that's a relatively, of the many items they need to work through, that one's relatively easy with their platform-based application. At the same time, the state of Nebraska in the very near future should be coming forward with their procedures and protocols for state funds. And we will be making a similar, if not the same, request to the state for our ratepayers that are outside of Douglas County. But your question's a good one, because as far as the Douglas County allocation, that is specifically for Douglas County residents.
Well, and anytime you deal with the federal government, you have to be pretty careful that you document that that money actually does go to the Douglas County residents.
For sure.
Don't want to pay anything back. Thank you.
And did you say that the administrative fees are being split with OPPD?
Kind of. What I would say is we both are working with Dollar Energy Fund in terms of what those administrative fees. My presumption is that OPPD's administrative fees, if not the same, are similar to ours. But I don't know for sure. I don't know what their agreement is with Dollar Energy Fund. But they're probably the same, but right now I don't know for certain. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Let's see. Do any board members have any further comments?
Madam Chairman, I have a question. I don't know who I direct this to, Mark Doyle or somebody, but the employees have all been working from home for the last, 4 or 6 weeks. And from what I heard, there's nobody in the new building, nobody in the old building, so most everyone's at home. How are operations going with everyone working at home? I haven't seen any hiccups or anything, but is operations pretty smooth? Are we ready to want to get back together? What's the status of all that?
Good morning, Mark Doyle, President. We are ready to get back together. Whether we will in the near future or not is another question, but it is nice to be with everyone, albeit in a different mode. A couple of things to address your question is we are regularly asking, is there anything that's not getting done that should be getting done? And we're confident that everything we should be doing is getting done. Now, it's in a different mode, and maybe I'll answer it by saying we've done several surveys. We're talking to our employees on a regular basis through electronic means. Some of us are able to run into each other a little bit with the proper protocols when we are in the buildings. But we did an all-employee survey. Everybody's looking to Stephanie. Are you enjoying this? About a month ago, several weeks back. And over 1 out of 2 employees responded to that survey, and they didn't just answer the questions about how are you feeling, are you reporting to the office, are you 100% at home, do you have the equipment that you need, is it perfect, is it less than perfect? And for our field folks, the questions are a little different, but are you reporting to the job site? Because most are from home. They're not coming into the construction center and congregating. So I would say the entire team and the employee population has done a splendid job of assimilating to the current situation in ways we couldn't have imagined. A year ago, if I would have said we're going to start working from home, okay, you would have had some discussions with me probably. So the last survey that we did about 2 weeks ago that we just saw the summary yesterday from Stephanie and her team asked maybe, I'm gonna go from memory, 277 employees that are the employees that might be working from home full-time, which most of them are, how they're doing. And I'm happy to tell you that we had a 93% response rate. Now think about that. 93% of those employees, which is 266 or something like that out of 277, responded. They didn't just respond by answering the questions. They respond with open text and thoughts and ideas on how this can work. Very few don't want it to work in the future. So we have to bone up on a few things. We need more monitors. Some people need laptops that don't have laptops. And I read every response. And I went into this thinking it's going to be difficult to read all the responses because it is anonymous. We feel that's important at this time. I'm telling you, it's been a delight. It's probably been, I don't know, Stephanie, you read them and you summarize them. It's really been a highlight of my career here at MUD, not just because the employees are offering valuable information in a bigger way than they've been able to in the office, ironically, because we have stepped up our communication. The types of things that are being suggested are valuable, whether we're in the office or out of the office. And incidentally, there is a definite excitement about a new, more effective workspace. So we're getting everything done. It's in a different mode. We don't know what we're going to do when we go back in terms of allowing more innovative and flexible work environments, which incidentally is not just a nice thing to do. 20 years from now, however we end up, it's going to help with retention and recruitment when we are faced with an employment shortage and, for example, engineers that can go to any engineering firm in Omaha or anywhere will want to work at MUD, and part of it will be walking through an innovative and productive workspace that's set up appropriately from the beginning. That's a healthy environment. I don't want to go back and talk about downtown, but that was not a healthy environment to be in. That's another thing that we don't talk about much. When we did talk to employees there, it will be in the future. So I'm sorry about the long drawn-out answer, but I just spent several hours yesterday reading 266 responses to our surveys that we're going to continue to do. And we're going to set up a task force that'll have senior leadership. We're going to recruit a scrum team or a tiger team, whatever. We cannot sit on this and not do anything about it. So you asked, I didn't expect the question, but I sure appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really answered your question.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that everything was running pretty smoothly because as a board member, we haven't heard anything like, major problems with,
Everything's running very smoothly, and I can't miss the opportunity to, Mr. Begley, I'm hoping by August for the state of the district, but I don't know that I want to go to everyone's home and individually have a, so there's going to be a virtual aspect and an in-person, and August might be different. I hope that's okay with the board.
Looking forward to it whenever
Okay.
it occurs.
Thank you for that. And I will say that now the engineering team, Masa, I don't know if he's here, but he's going to get nervous. Water main breaks are down this year. You know, we're not 100% sure why, but I think we've been making a lot of adjustments. We'll probably spend $1 million less on water main breaks if it keeps going like this year than we did last year, which ended up being a record year. So there's a lot of reasons for that. We'll find out why. We're never going to give up. We're spending $10 million a year on water main breaks, and that's not counting the social impact of the disruption that it causes. So whether it's our buildings or our infrastructure, we're moving into a mode where we're going to manage it better. We're not going to be victims to things. We're going to be proactive. We're going to have maintenance plans. And the reason the building took forefront is we had a buyer. Otherwise, that wouldn't have been high on my priority list. I would have stuck with water main breaks, but also we have an operations center that you know is having a few issues, and we can't ignore that. We've got an LNG plant that needs updating, and we'll be telling you more about that in the very near future. We've got a plan to bring back on that. So everything's getting done, and it is more difficult for the field folks in this mode probably than before, but,
Right.
you know.
But just based on the reports and being here and at the board meeting, the virtual meetings, it just feels like things are moving along, you know? You got a lot of stuff on your plate, but it seems like it's being managed, and we're doing the service for our ratepayers like we should be.
You know, I would say if we were a railroad, I'd say the train leaves on time. But we're going to make sure that it gets more effectively from point A to point B at every turn. So thanks for your support. Thanks for the
Two
question.
other questions, Mark. One is, you said field operations work from home. Do a lot of them bring their trucks, pickup trucks and vans?
We have, in the field service area, we've been reporting from home with their vehicles at their homes for quite a while. Not all of them, but a percentage. I would say we're taking more vehicles home than we used to, but you can't take everything home. We're not going to have crew trucks in the neighborhood. So yeah, there's a little more of that. But people are reporting to the job sites pretty much. You know, some people have to go in, and we have to stagger the way we go in. And we've worked closely with John Zellers and stores to make sure that not everybody's coming in at once. So yes.
And then this, not a question, it's more of a comment. I got my MUD bill, and my monthly, it was my month for adjusting my level payment plan. My bill dropped quite a bit because I had a big credit balance, because probably warmer than normal last winter and stuff, but I had a big credit balance, and it dropped quite a bit, more than I was comfortable with. So I called customer service, and I got to tell you, I only waited probably a minute is all for someone to come on, and this young lady got on, and I forget her name. I wish I'd remembered it, but she was very pleasant. And she took care of me right away. She let me worked with me on what I should have for next year for my level payment. And I just want to say she was very pleasant, very efficient, and did a professional job, and I just thought it was nice, and I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you for the compliment, and as you know, the calls are starting to come up a little bit, as we would expect as we resume with disconnections. But thank you for the compliment. By and large, I think that's the experience that our customers have. Just think if they would have known who you were, how good it would have been. So thanks for pointing that out.
I did say, this is Mike McGowan, board member.
I doubt it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in the audience today who would like to make any comments? And if so, please step up to the podium, state your name and address.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Robert Nadeau. I live at 1938 County Road 45, Fort Calhoun, Nebraska. I'm an employee with the district. I was coming to you to talk to you about our health care, but there's a lot of it that is personal. I wouldn't want to bring all my information out in a public hearing. If there'd be any way I could talk to you privately.
Well, share what you feel comfortable in sharing. I know you had some general
Today, I'd
concerns.
like to share with you our Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Okay.
Our Human Resource Department does a great job of informing us every year on the health care and what we have to follow and do, stay in network with our insurance. And we do, I know myself, we try to stay in network, as you probably do too, so you don't get extra bills. So the small window of doctors they combine for you that are approved by Blue Cross and Blue Shield, you have to choose from those because they say so. So you do that. So you get a specialist from their list of people, and then your specialist diagnoses you with a procedure, and they turn the procedure back into Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and Blue Cross and Blue Shield turns back a denial letter. They deny your coverage for that procedure. I just don't know how. You told me I have to go to this doctor in this small window of doctors because you have already pre-approved that doctor, and now you're denying coverage. And they don't tell you who denies the coverage, but I noticed one line here. Our physician reviewer. They don't even list his name. Well, I've never seen him. He's never seen me to diagnose me. But I'm being diagnosed by a letter from your insurance company. I think it just doesn't make sense. In all actuality, maybe I should go see their physician and have them tell me if I'm okay for the procedure or not, instead of wasting my time and co-pays, which can't be used for anything because the procedures were denied.
Two questions. Did they give you any explanation as to why they denied this?
It says services aren't constant with the professional recognized standards of medical practice.
Okay.
That's their answer.
Did you appeal this or return to the doctor that
I've
originally-
appealed several procedures. And myself, I've been turned down 4 times for 4 different procedures. My wife has been turned down twice and have to go through the appeals process. Again, we stay within our network, so we could go to their doctors. And again, I want to emphasize this. Then they turn around and say, well, they made the wrong decision. We'll tell you what the decision is, and it's not approved. And then on top of that, you have to go through, it's just kind of, I don't want to get it that far into it.
I have to say, this is the first time an employee has brought this issue before.
Yeah,
the
we
board.
have not heard it before.
Yeah, and, you know, I've been thinking in the past, I think the coverage that we provide employees, I'm pretty proud of the health coverage that our employees get.
So am I.
And everything, and so you know, it bothers me to hear you say that they send you to your preferred doctor and then they come back and say it's been denied. I agree with you, I don't understand that, and I think we've been happy with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I think the employees, the coverage that this board has approved for a benefit is pretty good. So it bothers me to hear you say that. I've not heard any other employee bring this up, and so I guess, Mark, I'd have to ask Bonnie or somebody to look into it and find out what's going on.
Mr. Nito, you're an OAC employee, correct?
Yes, sir.
I hate to put them on the spot, but leading with what Mike said, can I ask Terry Kroll and Tom Todd to come down? I just have a question for either one of them. And my question is, among your members, is this an isolated incident that Mr. Nito's bringing forward, or have you heard concerns from other members of 1521?
I'd like to comment on that.
Please.
Mike says he hasn't heard of it. I have a letter of denial from 2013, 2017, and 2020 on 3 different procedures I supposed to have had.
Can I just make one comment? You're not alone in this. Others of us through Blue Cross have had to resubmit through our doctor because they didn't provide enough foundational information. Are you getting that same thing?
Yeah, and I thought I had hired a professional doctor.
What's the
and
doctor
then they're telling him that he's wrong.
What's the doctor say? Are they saying we will provide more information, or are they frustrated too and not?
They're frustrated. You know, their answer to that is, and maybe this be generic, but not more than 3 of them had told me, insurance company's gonna deny all procedures, hoping that 70% of them procedures don't ever get challenged. 20% of you are gonna come and challenge it to get the procedure.
That's not a
leaving
complete-
10% out. And I said, well, what's the 10%? He said, that 10% is either just gonna quit altogether, die in a car wreck, plane, COVID. That's the 10% he said it's in there. But he said, you can almost count the number of procedures that have been turned down by yourself. And I said, and if I don't challenge them, then I don't get them. I don't receive them.
And if you're seeing a specialist, it's not for an ingrown toenail, I'm guessing, without going into detail about your medical condition.
Are you prevailing in these appeals? Are you winning them, but it's just taken a lot of frustration to get to that point?
I'd love to talk to you in private about that. I really would. I can't go into depth at a public meeting.
Sure.
Terry, have you heard other similar stories from members of 1521?
We have. Occasionally, we do hear from people that they get a little frustrated because their physician has told them, you need to have this procedure done. And many times it's, well, before you can have this procedure done, you have to go through all this physical therapy. And we've actually had conversations with people, I won't bring any names up or anything, but people that say, my physician said that basically me going through all this physical therapy has done more damage now. So, yes, we do hear that occasionally.
Not to get into detail personally, but I had back surgery 6 weeks ago. Before my doctor, orthopedic surgeon, would do the physical therapy, he said, you have to go through this protocol. You have to take some physical therapy first, and you have to take nerve pain medication first for several weeks. Then they do an MRI, then they do the back surgery. But before you could get that point, there was a protocol they said you had to follow with physical therapy and stuff. So I did, so.
And Mr. McGowan, I've done that myself on 2 different occasions.
I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
That, my insurance so far has been pretty good coverage, following all the procedures.
And I agree.
Mr. Nito, unless you have anything further, I'd like to invite Mr. Mendenhall to come up to answer a few questions. Terry, anything else to add?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Nito.
Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Mark, before you begin, I just want to ask, so MED is self-insured and Blue Cross and Blue Shield administers the plan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
One question I have, how does the process work in a situation like Mr. Nito's? Who makes the ultimate call on approving or denying a claim?
Yeah, excellent question. So yeah, to begin with, we are self-insured for purposes of our health insurance policy. And so the dollars that are paid out for health insurance claims are paid out from a fund approved all by you all. And so the benefits that we enjoy, that Mr. Nito enjoys, that I enjoy, my wife and family enjoys, are all approved by this board. As far as the process is concerned, we have retained Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska to administer the health insurance policy. It's under a 3-year agreement. That agreement goes through 2021. The district, myself, Human Resources Department is satisfied. We've been happy with the services that Blue Cross and Blue Shield have provided. Certainly understand frustration that individuals might experience as they pursue procedures and experience denials of claims. But the process that is in place is one that Ms. Savine and I feel is appropriate, and we're comfortable with how it occurs. And so, to, I guess, generally answer your question, Mr. Bagley, if a procedure is requested by a provider, Blue Cross and Blue Shield will review that procedure internally to ensure that it's the appropriate procedure to pay for, that our dollars are being paid appropriately. They may say, And again, trying to speak generally here, that the procedure being requested by the provider is procedure D. Well, before we're going to approve procedure D, we need to ensure that you have gone through procedures A, B, and C, a non-invasive, a therapeutic, a medicinal, whatever it may be. And so D would be denied, the communication would be go through A, B, and C. And so that could be where some of the frustration lies. And again, I feel that that is an appropriate use of administration of our dollars. And so the denial would come from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. The review process, the appeal process would also come through Blue Cross and Blue Shield. One thing I would like to add, and I would mention that our Human Resources Department, from my observation, goes above and beyond in working with our employees to help bridge that gap of frustration when someone sees an explanation of benefits and there's a denial. They can pick up that phone and they can talk to several people within our Human Resources Department that can help explain and then help be an advocate to the Blue Cross and Blue Shield representatives to help maybe give me a better explanation. Okay, well, let me help understand why there is a denial here and what steps we need to take, and then we will communicate that to the employees. For Mr. Nito's particular concerns, one of the things that I had offered to him, and I think that it'd still be appropriate if his time it allows and your time allows, as far as the Personnel Committee is concerned, the next opportunity the Personnel Committee meets, Mr. Bagley, Mr. Friend, and Mr. Frost meets, that might be an opportunity for Mr. Nito to come in and speak to you more candidly and more openly and in a more, I guess, private fashion, since it's just the three of you in a particular committee. And then if the committee determines, well, we've got additional questions based upon that conversation, Ms. Savine and myself can certainly work to run down those answers. So I guess long answer to your question.
And Mark, since it's our plan, would you or Bonnie or both of you have the authority to overrule Blue Cross Blue Shield's decision?
I don't know the answer to that question. I guess I would feel uncomfortable seeking to overrule a decision of Blue Cross and Blue Shield for this reason. In the example that I gave you, when Blue Cross and Blue Shield is making a determination regarding procedures A, B, and C, they are using their own internal medical resource officers, so physicians that are reviewing the doctor's notes. And yeah, they might not be, and probably most likely they are not doing an in-person evaluation of the patient, so they're not seeing the patient, but they're reviewing the records submitted by the patient's provider. In certain circumstances, they will also reach out to external groups to find a specialist. Like they might not have a certified cardiologist on staff, but they're going to reach out to a certified cardiologist to review the recommendation of the provider to help them make a determination to whether or not this procedure should be approved. I'm certainly not a physician, and I lack that information, and so I would wholly feel uncomfortable making determinations of approval or denial or overriding the decisions of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So we put that on Blue Cross and Blue Shield. What we can do is, again, be an advocate for our employees, and then we can also help to digest the information that we're receiving through our Blue Cross and Blue Shield representative. And we have, I believe, 2 representatives that we can work with directly to try to get answers on behalf of our employees.
And with due respect with what you said, and this is the systems we've operated under for quite some time, but it sounds like we're advocating for the insurance company rather than our employees.
Again, I think each particular situation might be different, but I would say, in that example that I gave you, I would say no, that we could and we could not. So in a particular situation, we could say, listen, we are receiving information from this employee's provider that procedure D is being requested. Here's the information that they've given us. Why can't we get procedure D listed? Okay, and then if whatever explanation they're going to give us back, well, let's go to some more less invasive or more therapeutic procedure beforehand. Like that answer generally comports with how we have operated under health insurance, under the health insurance policy for decades. If the explanation that we receive doesn't comport with that understanding, certainly we might take a different position, and we could work to, again, I'm trying to speak in generalities, we could work to get information from the employee's provider and then take a position advocating on behalf of that employee, saying, well, the provider's recommending a certain procedure, why can't we have that done? Can we have that done? And so could we take a more forceful approach? Yes, I think that we could, but again, we have put those decisions onto Blue Cross and Blue Shield as the administrator of that plan, since they're comprised of those subject matter experts.
And my last question would be, next week after we get back from the holiday, would you be able to provide the board with the number of cases broken out by OAC and SPAs as to how many have been how many claims have been denied going back a year or two?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Mark as Bonnie. I would maybe like to I agree that this system seems designed around insurance reimbursement versus the therapy to address the health concerns of the employee, of the human being. What I would like to request that shouldn't be too much is that our contacts at Blue Cross, is that a salesperson or is that a person that does an analysis related to the doctor or therapist's recommendation?
Let's see.
Like our liaison, is that?
I'd say she is an account executive there.
Okay.
She is there. I can't speak on behalf of her background, whether or not it's a sales background or not.
No,
But
so she is a person that is, her role is to interface with us, the customer,
yes.
and her employer, which is the insurance company. I think if we're the customer, I don't think that it would be outside the bounds of our rights and privileges or just general customer service to request that when our employees are communicated with a rejection, that it is done in a way that is clear to our HR person and to our employee. And I was just hearing something about the way that with the advent of electronic records, things are put in for the reimbursement into the computer and not so much representing the medical practitioner's recommendation for a therapy to address the issue. So that's kind of another business model challenge, but what we can do immediately is to nurture those relationships with our, account executives, and on behalf of our employees, that we want something a little warmer than a letter that says you did it wrong, because they're trusting the professional advice of the medical provider, and we have to believe that the medical provider is not recommending therapy D for her health.
And if I could go back to an answer, thank you, excellent point, Director Cook. I appreciate that, and we certainly will work with those individuals to address that. I would also add, through the beauty of technology, Ms. Savine is watching on the live stream, and so she's been texting me the correct answers. So I'm phoning a friend here on some of this. And since we are self-insured, one of the things that she said is the district would get a third step appeal, and we would have the ability to make an exception, although, as I said, we typically would not go against the decisions of the administrator of the policy, although we have approved exceptions before. So to answer your question, yes, we have, although I would say that would be rare.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think our job is to advocate for the employee. Obviously, Blue Cross's job is to advocate for saving money for Blue Cross. And it would seem to me at minimum, when they do a refusal, denial, that they have the obligation to fully explain that in terms that not only our employee can understand, but that he can take back to the physician and he knows what's missing or what more needs to be included. This is the worst of managed care, is when it's easy to say, no, we're not going to do this. And then the individual that needs the procedure is not only is he ill or injured, but he's kind of out there on a limb. I can't stress enough that I think our job is to really be the advocate for the employee. And if we have to butt heads with Blue Cross Blue Shield sometimes, so be it. I know how it can seem like a form letter that comes back, not enough information, not enough, denied. But what then is the next step for the individual? Does Blue Cross supply that? Did they give much of an explanation? I'd say we really have to hold their feet to the fire, that they say, this is the reason, this is what we need you to do next, and we're willing to work with you.
Yeah, and the denials also do go to the physician, so to the provider, and so ideally the provider is having the conversation with the patient to say, hey, here's what the insurance company said.
My guess is the provider's going to say, I don't know what more they want. If they don't tell us, what are we going to do? Supply some more information? That may not be what they want.
Absolutely.
They've got an obligation to tell the employee or the patient, the individual, what it is that's missing or what the big issue is.
Yeah,
in plain English. And thank you for that, Tanya. You hit the nail on the head.
Absolutely.
Well.
In that situation, we would step in to, again, help bridge that communication gap if there is one to help. But I would also add, although we have, as you've described appropriately, an obligation to advocate on behalf of the employees, we can't forget that there are numerous participants in the plan, and so we really also have to advocate on behalf of the plan as a whole and ensure that that plan is being administered, so that fund as a whole is being administered
Well, when you
appropriately.
present that, my question would be, why is the doctor that Blue Cross Blue Shield selects as their preferred doctor? Obviously he's not doing willy-nilly decisions and referring people over. They feel he's got knowledge in this field and he's going to be informed, he's going to supply correct information. I'd go back to why in the world they've got an issue with what he's saying.
Right, sure.
Mark, just quickly, most procedures require a pre-certification. Are they getting turned down during the pre-certification, or are they allowing the procedure to happen, trying to get insurance coverage, and then telling them, no, you got to pay for it? Do we know the answer to that?
I guess I believe I understand the answer to Mr. Nito's, but I'm not going to disclose that. Again, here in a public forum, would be more appropriate for him to disclose it at a more private discussion with maybe the personnel committee or with you directly.
Okay.
I think it could happen both ways. I think that there are pre-authorizations that would be denied before say a more invasive procedure would be approved, because the administrator, Blue Cross, through its medical resource officers, want to see less invasive or more therapeutic options tried first.
It sounds like it's being denied at the pre-certification stage, which is probably better than after you've had it and then they try to come back and collect from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
That's all I had to say.
Good point.
One other point, Mark, just to add on to Jim, about us having the ability to override Blue Cross Blue Shield. And like you said, somebody needs procedure D, but Blue Cross says you gotta go through A, B, C to get to D. If we override that and tell them to go to D direct, are we putting us in a liability position with the medical? Something happens, they say, well, you didn't go through the right protocol. I think we gotta be careful making a decision to override them from a liability standpoint.
Point well taken. Great point.
Although, to counter that, Mike, getting A, B, and C to D, time might be of the essence to have a procedure done to overturn. So your point is well taken, Mike.
I was in the personnel committee and have heard a little bit more about this, as was Jim and Jack. And I would just like to say there's nothing more personal than medical issues and being treated, and I understand how that can create emotion. However, as a board, we decided to hire Blue Cross, and we worked with management and labor when we moved from another company that was not providing good service, and I won't mention their name, but we went back to Blue Cross, and everybody was happy with Blue Cross based on prior service levels. we have Blue Cross there for a reason. We might not like the answers they get, but I would warn the board, be real careful about wanting to override something because it's an emotional issue, because once you start down that road, none of us here are doctors. It might not be friendly, and it might not be something that the patient necessarily wants with their treating physician, but once you start to override and replace your judgment for that of a doctor, you've just opened a huge issue, and we've got 800+ employees. So if you do it for employee number one, you better be ready to do it for every other one who's in line that thinks they need. And I'm not taking anything away from what Bob's got going on. I'm just saying in general, as a board, I think that on this issue, we've hired a professional company. We should probably work to make sure that they are communicating, but be very careful about the emotional pull, because in the end, we need to advocate for the ratepayers. That's who's paying for all of this in the end.
I agree with you, Dave, and that's kind of what I was saying. I think if you start overriding for one or something, you start going down a slippery slope. Where do you stop? And I also bring up the legal issues. What happens if you start making these decisions and we're overriding medical experts? You know, that really bothers me.
Bob had a medical expert, though, too, who recommended a procedure. And Dave, again, your point is well taken, but I don't think we should assume that Blue Cross and Blue Shield is infallible on every decision they make, and we should not overturn every decision they make, but I don't think there's any error in pushing back and holding them account to our employees for the decisions they make, which may be a life or death decision they're
Well,
making.
I agree that we're a long ways from overriding anything right now. I think we're at the point where we're still trying to work with Blue Cross, Blue Shield to get more information, more specifics. Really, they have an obligation to, when you don't like something, tell us what it is. Don't let us guess out here. That's where I would stand with this.
Mark Doyle, President.
100 years ago, I'm having a little flashback to a job I had in Lincoln. There was a practice where children were denied mental health, behavioral health services. These are like the little ones, the 0 to 4. That were, where they got dropped off at the hospital because the family couldn't deal. So this is what was happening with the provider for these children. The psychiatrist or whoever would say, oh yeah, this is medically necessary, all of this stuff. And then basically our insurer would say, oh no, that's not medically necessary. So we couldn't intervene that way, but we did, and I'm not for another level of bureaucracy, but we created a procedure by which the families had to be notified, and it had to be explained, and it established an appeal process within the agency. I hope we don't go there, but I don't know. Tanya has a stroke. A was she should have taken a nap in 2013. B was she could have not put on however much weight. And C was she could have eaten better. But D, she had a stroke, so she needs the stuff. There's just lots of ways. It seems like a business model, but that's my point of view. Thank you.
I hopefully will close with this, and this has been a very enlightening discussion. And I just want to clarify my position, Dave. I'm not stating that we should review every case and overturn every case. My question for Mark was, would we have the authority to, in exceptional cases, be able to overturn a recommendation or the decision from Blue Cross? I just want to
I wasn't, all I'm saying is this is something that we pay professionals to do. We just need to be very careful about it. That's all I was saying.
Well said. Yep, I agree.
Just to put a little wrap on it, Mark Doyle, President. I've been through this personally a couple times, and Dave, you alluded to a previous provider, and I don't recall if you're talking about when we made a major shift of healthcare providers quite a few years back. And I'm not going to mention it either, but I will tell you when MUD's management brought that initiative to us as a board, when I was a board member, the feeling I had, because I had a denial under the previous provider with the newborn, a strong recommendation from a physician to handle something, and it was not, that provider would not, and I fought it, and I wrote my letters, and I paid for it myself when I couldn't afford it the way maybe I could today, but things are so expensive. So I really thought we had a provider problem, and we made a big shift, the majority of the board, unanimously. So here we are today. I went through a similar experience last year where my provider felt a different approach should be taken, and I'm not going to go into it, as Bob won't. And it didn't work out for me, and I have the letters, and I have the denial, and I feel like I have to accept it, but I also feel like, and we've talked about this, we don't need a bureaucracy. There's nothing wrong with saying, we want to know how many things are denied, and generically, I think a little bit of communication can go an extremely long way. I really do. Not overriding, but saying, hey, tell us, is this happening 20 times a month, 1 time a year? We kind of need to know. We have an obligation as management to know that, Bob, and we're going to get better at that. But all said and done, if it's something that we're upset about, then we need to handle it.
Mark, do you think there would be it would be a benefit to invite a representative from Blue Cross Blue Shield to come in and talk with us about the steps? And if you do have a condition, whatever it is that you're concerned about, you go to your doctor, they refer you to their specific doctors, one of their specific doctors you choose to go to, and then it's denied. What happens then? Or what would be the basis for denial? Or what explanation can you provide for denial? I mean, a lot of things that we'd probably be well off knowing.
Yes, and that's my long-winded, you got to where I was trying to get to.
Oh, thank you.
Well, but doesn't it make sense? We're their customer.
Exactly.
We have choices
customers,
here.
and we appreciate that they're practical regarding expenditures.
And these are very
way.
personal.
But at the same time, we deal with humans, as we hope they do too.
Yes, thank you. I've been through it also, and I understand.
Well, it could happen to any one of us.
Pardon. Yeah, especially when you get to be, as young as I. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
All right. I hope that was helpful. And please continue to work with the Personnel Division and Bonnie, and we'll follow up on this. The committee meetings have now concluded. We will convene in 10 minutes at, what time is it? Let's say about 10 after. Thank you. Oh, gavel. Dave, are you going to see Mike soon? Make sure you tell him how proud I am of him.
I already did. You did?
Yeah, I remember I told you last time, but I just...
If you just want to have it make its way to the help desk and office, that works fine. So, we're at the lunchroom. So.
Mary?
She does. I spotted in the hallway. She's about to write it. Yeah, good. That's good. I see that in it. No, I thought that was already. I am nowhere close, but.
So I used my letter, my letter, just like Nazi Germany.
Oh, you're going to show us your papers, right?
Show me your papers.
Right.
So first I got the kid, state patrol, when I tried to get that call.
Doing the
I said, I live down here, and you have a snow plow here, so how am I gonna like water? And then here comes the season.
You did it well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate a good job.
Oh my God. My kids. I don't know what to
Handing it to you.
Downtown during the curfew uprising, whatever you want to call it. Thanks. Well, I'll let you through this one. Now,
Fortunately, I think that machismo is just.
right. I don't think he was not from Omaha either, so that was maybe intimidating him on his level. I was a middle-aged lady in a mid-sized city, so I I kept my hands on the wheel. I did all but I did have my letter.
Good. Well, anything I can.
Maybe by the beginning of the year, right now, we have letters. Although I think they're doing a little better than we are. Oh, gosh, trying times.
So that happened.
Well, that's frustrating.
But he let me through, but it was just like, really?
Come on.
Mendenhall's better than.
Mark's the big kahuna.
Exactly, anybody. Signing machine. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, hello, Sandy.
That's right.
Hello, Sandy.
Well, I guess we could. See, and you see how it was like,
You and I have experienced this one, we know. Yeah, the man's just no. Oh, I know, and it's all documented.
Well,
in places, it's clear that she or he has made the thing that weren't done, okay? When the doctor said change your diet, when the doctor said take your medication, okay, things happen. Stress happens, and then you get to D, and now they won't do DBT until they want you to go to A.
I'll tell you a funny story. Years and years ago, I worked at Human Services for many years, those many years. We had, you've heard of the Title 20 program. You know, that's a daycare authorization. Yeah. So we had to fill out these sheets, and they were in like, how many copies, I don't know. But we had to put down the hours the kids were there and the rate
Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on.
Thank you. Today's meeting marks our return to an in-person public meeting of the MUD Board of Directors since March of this year, when meetings began to be conducted virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is being broadcast live from the Legislative Chamber at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center at 1819 Farnham Street. For those of you who are present in the chamber today, please continue to abide by health officials' recommended guidelines for wearing face masks and for maintaining social distancing of 6 feet from one another. Mary, if you could do roll call, please.
Friend?
Here.
Frost? Here. McGowan?
Here.
Howard?
Here.
Kavanaugh?
Here.
Bagley?
Here.
Cook?
Here.
Open Meetings Act. I'd like to advise those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall of the Legislative Chamber. Item number 3. And now for those who wish to participate, we will stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes for the committee meetings and regular board meeting for June 4th, 2020. Do I hear a motion? Thank you. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Friend?
Yes.
Frost? Yes. McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Capital expenditures.
Item number 5, discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Mr. Osdemore dated June 23rd.
Do I have a motion?
You just did. Second?
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Friend?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
No.
Cook?
Yes. Change order for the headquarters building renovation.
Item number 6, change order number 1, also discussed in committee. Move approval as outlined in the memo from Melissa Polito dated June 15th.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Friend?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes. Capital expenditures.
Also discussed in committee under tab 7. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Mr. DeBoer dated June 23rd.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mary, roll call, please.
Friend?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Agenda item number 8, acceptance of contracts and payments of final estimates.
Also discussed in committee, and this is placed on file, isn't it, Mary?
No.
Why am I thinking that? Okay, also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Dave DeBoer dated June 23rd.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Friend?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
All right, item number 9, bids on materials and contracts.
Did we have some discussion? I was supposed to wait before I made this motion, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you're
Director
absolutely
Chair,
right.
there is a member of the public that wishes to address the board before a motion is made on one of the particular items under agenda number 9.
All right, and before the motion is made, any members of the public wish to comment? Come on down to the microphone.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Brad Duffy, and I am the president and third generation owner of Permar Security Services, and we are the incumbent security guard provider for the district. This is Sean McConnell. He's the account manager overseeing the contract. First of all, I just want to thank the district for the opportunity to provide service the last few years. For one, I am very proud of the service we've provided, especially in these times, the pandemic, the riots, the protest thing. I just want to ask, We're a 67-year-old company. We have a 40-plus year presence in the city of Omaha. I've heard some of the sympathy for local companies, especially with a long history. I just would like to ask for consideration. I know the RFP had the consideration for best and lowest. I think the service that we've provided during these times has been exceptional, and I would thank the board for any consideration. I don't know, Sean.
Nothing for me.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, then I'll have some discussion after the second. Make a motion that we approve tab number 9, which is bids on materials and contracts, also discussed in committee and outlined. I make a motion we accept as outlined in the letter from John Zellers dated June 19th.
Second.
Okay.
I have,
Is there discussion?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Doyle, I don't know if this would be something that you would care to address or if you'd have John Zellers address it, whoever you would consider. I'm sure that these companies were vetted. I'm assuming that's the case. And it's about an $88,000 a year difference over a 3-year contract. I know that several of these groups, I'm recognizing the names, do have local offices. And I'm hoping maybe you can give us a little information so we don't just completely disregard the fact that the folks were here from Permar. And my understanding is that they have provided quality service over the last couple of years. It looks like they maybe just got undercut. But anyway, Mr. Zellers, please.
Yes, Permar has provided excellent service for us over the last 3 years. I'm not aware of any shortcomings associated with the work that they have provided for us. As I had mentioned during the committee meeting, we go through a 2-step process when we look at security guard services. And that is, I'm sorry, I got to take this off. And that is one is we want to make sure that the organizations that are going to provide us services for a critical nature, obviously we're securing water facility plants. We're also securing our operations areas, our employees, our LNG facility. These are critical infrastructures that we need to have a strong partner with to help us secure these facilities. So we go through a vetting process in which it's very extensive. I think it's about a 3 or 4 page document that we do a pre-qualification on, and then that is vetted through our security staff to determine which of the vendors that have provided these qualifications, can they meet the specifications? Do they have the resources, the vehicles, the personnel, and other parameters and criteria that are associated with that pre-qualification? Do they meet it? And every one of the bidders that you see on my letter has met that qualifications and was vetted by our safety and security. And this is a process that has happened over the last several bids that we have done over the last several years. And so the question is, yes, we go through a very, very thorough process before we even allow them to bid. So what you see in front of you today on the letter are those organizations that we feel can meet the specifications and the requirements of the district. And therefore, we're recommending the low bid as also being the best bid as well.
I just wanted to add the difference between the low and high bidder was about $267,000. That is pretty material. Signal 88, that's a local firm, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, Signal 88 has a local presence, and I may be speaking a little out of turn, but I believe it was actually started by some OPD officers.
I think it was founded here.
Yes.
Just Tim, so that you know, not that it makes any difference here, but Signal 88 was founded by a Douglas County Sheriff's deputy who then sold it, and it's been franchised out. And I think they do have a local office here, but it's now owned by a franchisee.
Yeah, it's a national firm now.
Yeah, I know I personally have seen them, their presence throughout town, their vehicles and so forth.
Do we feel comfortable with the service they're providing? Who do they provide service for? Have you talked to any local companies that get some feedback?
I would have to direct that question to the safety and security team as through the vetting process that they went through. I would be looking at either Shane. There we go.
Shane Hunter, Vice President of Safety and Security. As far as Signal 88, I'm not familiar with anyone that's doing work with them personally, but we did reach out and talk to some people as in reference to the work that they provided. I know that the former owner, in 2011, we did some work with the city, and that firm at that time did an outstanding service, but I have no personal knowledge of any extraordinary pluses or minuses above their peers other than what we have here on the documentation.
See, it concerns me a little bit with the environment we're in, the unfortunate environment that we're in, changing security companies when we are happy with the one we've already had and doing good business with them and going to somebody a little different. It's quite a change in this environment. I'm just not sure I'm comfortable with that.
The positive is that we are going to retain the same security officers that we have now. Yes, their uniforms and patches and their administrative on that side will be changing, but the people that we see day to day will remain the same.
So they go over to Signal 88?
That is correct.
And they leave the current company?
I'm sorry? They leave the current company? Yes.
And goes, now, what about their tenure and all that? Does that go with them, or how's that all work?
Yeah, that is something that was worked out in the agreement, that the employees that we have working with us and everything that they have comes over with them to Permar, or I'm sorry, from Permar to Signal 88. And it's been that way through the last couple contracts, my understanding.
Okay. So there's a contract employees, do they have benefits with Signal 88, or how's that all work?
That's correct. We don't maintain any of their benefits. That all goes through that contract.
So they change companies from Permar to Signal 88?
Yes.
Okay.
I recalled something just now. Back in 2006, right after I retired, I was hired by, I believe, by this firm to manage and supervise the security around the College World Series. So I'm going to abstain from voting on this. I don't know if that's a problem. I don't want it to be one. It just came to me that they did the security for the College World Series back then. So I'm going to abstain.
Signal 88 did?
Yes.
And Signal 88 was also the firm that provided security in the summer of 2011 for 13 miles of levee during the flood. After the National Guard departed in the 1st of July, that service was contracted out to Signal 88 for the rest of the summer, all the way into September.
Counsel, I probably shouldn't vote on that if that's the case.
Yeah, no, your point's well taken, Director Kavanaugh. The only suggestion then I would have is, since there are other items on tab 9,
take it separate.
That there be a second motion. So a motion to approve the items as listed in the letter from John Zellers to the Construction and Operations Committee, except for the annual bid to furnish guard service. That could be one motion, and then a second motion to address only the furnishment of guard services for those years listed. I think that would probably be the cleanest.
I can change my motion then to indicate that we approve the bids and materials as listed in the letter from Mr. Zellers, from John Zellers, dated June 19th, with the exception of the item of guard service under annuals.
Can I add one point?
Yes.
To Mike's point, just to be very clear, the employees that are employed now by Permar will come over with whatever company. That is a contingency of the contract. This isn't untoward. In 2017, we changed from Allied. Permar was successful in winning the contract because they had the low bid. Those employees from Allied came over to Permar. Under this proposal, Signal 88 will be awarded the contract because their bid was more desirable than the others, and those employees will continue and follow suit. Okay. And the process will continue. And 3 years from now, we'll be faced with this again, and it'll be the lowest and best bidder.
Okay, so it makes me feel good that the same officers and
Yes.
employees that we have now securing our facilities will be the same, but the administration of it has changed.
Yes, sir. The people who manage the process will go through our training, and those relationships will have to be created in this case.
Thank you for that clarification.
And at the time, in 2017, Allied was doing a very good job.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the explanation. Commissioner Friend, do you take it?
Sorry?
I believe we have a motion and
We-
then a second from Director
Right.
Cook and discussion and
The motion currently is to approve bids and materials minus the guard service, and Ms. Cook seconded that.
Good, thank you. Do we have any additional discussion regarding this? Seeing none.
Friend,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes,
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook.
Yes. All right, Commissioner Friend with your second.
Okay, the motion that I will make is also again discussed extensively and in committee. I move to approve the recommendation of management to enter into a contract with Signal 88 Security from August 3rd, 2020 to August 1st, 2023. That's also outlined in the letter from John Zellers dated June 19th.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion?
I have just one question for our general counsel. I did also work for Signal 88. It's been a long time ago, and it was under different ownership. Making that statement, does that transparency then, what's your recommendation on whether I should abstain or not?
you currently hold no employment or garner any benefits from Signal 88?
Correct, and haven't since long before it was sold to the current franchisee.
I don't see any reason that then you would benefit directly or even indirectly through a vote to recommend Signal 88. So I don't see any conflict that would exist. So that's my, I guess, legal opinion is I don't see a conflict. If you have a personal preference to abstain based upon that history, however long ago it was, then I think that's just maybe your personal preference, but I don't see any legal reason why you would have to
Thank you.
abstain as a result of that.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Roll call, please.
Friend,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Abstain.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook.
Yes. Agenda item number 10, main extensions.
Services and extensions discussed also in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Corey O'Brien dated June 23rd.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Friend,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook.
Wage and salary increases and ratifications.
I move that we approve the wage and salary increases and ratifications as discussed in committee this morning and outlined in Bonnie Savine's memo dated June 22nd, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Friend,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook.
Yes. And to conclude, are there any other matters of district business for discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Item number 12, you skipped over that, then we have it down in 15. What, you skipped down to other matters, are we taking that up later?
We're doing 12 right now.
Oh, I thought you said, is there any other matters for discussion?
Well, that falls under 12.
We're taking up.
We're taking up any other matters.
Oh, I must have a
Taking up.
hold, I have number 12 as recommendation for president's salary.
Let's look at this agenda.
Huh.
We were just trying to see if you were awake, Mike.
I know. See, look at that.
Yeah, I believe the agenda that we had written was number 12 would give an
That's redone?
opportunity for any other matters of district business to be discussed, and then you all would move into closed session to
Yeah, that
discuss
sounds good. Are
item
we-
14 in closed session.
All right. Are we good then with?
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you. Any board members have any further comments?
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session.
Thank you. Do we need a second for that?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. Then in that case, we're going to conclude our business here, and we're going to go
We'll need
into
a roll call to move
closed
into
session. Roll call, please.
Friend,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
All right, that concludes our business. I'd rather have you confused than me, Mike. You may have a different agenda, I don't know.
Sorry.
No, no problem, no problem. You're doing amazingly well. Do we have a motion to return to open session?
So moved. Second?
And a second. Who is the second? You got that, Nick?
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to do the roll call.
Friend,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Thank you. We will now take up agenda item number 13, the President's performance and salary review. Are there any discussion?
I will make a motion that we award the president a 2.25% salary increase retroactive to March 1st, which is the same salary increase that every other SPA employee received as a cost of living adjustment, and a 5% increase effective May 1st, which is the same step increase that every other SPA gets until they are near the top of their scale, and our president is nowhere near the top of that scale. So 2.25% retroactive to March 1, which is the COLA increase, and the 5% effective May 1, which is the progression increase that every SPA gets.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, Mary, please.
Friend,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Does anyone have any comments they would like to make?
It's good to be back in person.
It's good to see you too.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Right, Mary.
Friend,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
We are
Happy
adjourned.
4th, everybody.
Yeah, happy 4th.
Thanks to our AV guys for putting this together for us. Appreciate it.
I'm going to leave my book with you, Mary.